Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noah's in the gospel, broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. Lord's will to be edifying. It says military draft enacted by Russia, war escalation. The sound of war is in the air, all right? Things are intensifying. The sides are gearing up to choose their mates. And we know that this devil, this so-called white man, he's talking about there would be no peace and safety without war. As the scriptures say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction. Esau has declared war on the world, man. And he's getting ready to go all out in a final attempt to get world domination, man. And this is why he has a hard-on for Iran. But it's so funny, though, because I was watching this video by Peter Hegseth, meets with hundreds of military leaders. And he was basically cursing their ass out, basically stating, if you ain't in shape, you need to get in shape or you getting the hell up out of here. Which shows you that they're getting in that primitive spirit and that the third war is among us, man. See, America's not going to be what it was post-World War II or during the time of World War II. But nonetheless, they understand that in order for them to get this new world order on the running and in order to get the strongholds of the world, they're going to have to go to war. And in fact, you got a dollar collapse, an alleged government shutdown. You have a $500 billion Stargate project that's being erected as we speak. You got the UK Parliament declaring that you won't be able to work unless you have a digital ID. And shit, the list goes on. So prophecy is screaming. Okay, we in a time now that all hell is getting ready to break loose. They're talking about deploying more troops to Chicago to help ICE. And eventually, this shit is just going to collapse, man. And then things are going to hit the fan. All right. So anyway, this is by Steve Ram. It says breaking military draft enacted by Russia. War escalation. So I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this video. And then I may go into what Peter Hegseth mentioned. You know, because the scriptures say, let the weak say I'm strong. But we'll play a couple of minutes of this and get a couple of precepts and let the Spirit speak. So here we go. Fair use, by the way.
All right, breaking news coming out today, September 29th, 2025, as we're hearing the war with Russia and pretty much the world has escalated. We're hearing that a draft has now officially been enacted by Russian President Vladimir Putin. And a lot of people are wondering, is this the route we're going to be going here in the United States? Now, this is going...
Well, yeah, it's going to have to go because if you listen to what Peter Hegseth mentioned, it's no coincidence that that speech came at a time when Putin is basically declaring a draft of 130-something thousand men. Okay, which they do it like twice a year, by the way. But they're getting their numbers up because they understand that this is going to be the war that determines the outcome of humanity, so to speak. And this is the war that's going to bring back Yahweh Shai. So it's all spiritual. So this guy, Peter Hegseth, is basically giving a State of Union speech to the United States Army that, look, you got to be fit, ready, and mentally equipped in order to go to war because technically you're not equipped. Okay, they said that they missed their staffing recruits by, I think, like 70% or like 55%. And they said that 70% of the people in America are unqualified or unfit for duty because they're not in shape. Their minds ain't right. They're weak. You know, they're through. And it makes sense because the vision that Jake had regarding World War III in Isaiah 4:1, he said that these men were running out and they were just getting gunned down. Like they had no type of formation. They had no type of unity. They didn't understand reconnaissance. I mean, they were just all over the goddamn place. And it makes sense, you know?
Happening while we're also hearing that the United States is planning to send over more missiles to Ukraine to defend themselves, and things are escalating with NATO. Let's take a look at the latest headlines so that way you can see it for yourself. Coming out today, September 29th, 2025, Putin signs military draft for 135,000 citizens amid ongoing mobilization plan. Today, 11 hours ago, Putin orders the highest fall conscription target in 9 years. Russia plans to draft 135,000 people during their autumn conscription. And if World War III erupts here in the United States, these are the first U.S. citizens who would get drafted. This has been a question on a lot of people's minds right now as we're hearing World War III global conflict being thrown around everywhere. What would likely happen since the U.S. hasn't had a draft since 1973? What would we have here in the United States? And let me know, do you think that we're going to be going that route here in the U.S.? If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. But what we're hearing is tensions are escalating. Take a look. Russia attacks keep pushing the limits of NATO countries. NATO is not ready for a shadow war with Russia's drones. And we've been hearing that they've been catching them off guard. And we
It says the prospect of reinstating a military draft, which they gonna have to bring back a draft because they ain't gonna have the numbers. Okay, they gonna have to bring back a draft. I don't give a damn what nobody say, but it says the prospect of reinstating a military draft, also known as a conscription, basically what Steve Rand was talking about with Russia. It says very significantly by the country, but global circumstances in late 2025 marked by protracted conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, Myanmar, alongside escalating U.S.-Iran tensions and Russia aggression in Europe, have received revived discussions worldwide. See, Russia is doing it. The tensions, including NATO's warnings of potential Russian attack on alliance members within 5 years and U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites in June 2025, are straining volunteer-based militaries and prompting governments to bolster reserves. It says, however, reinstatement remains unlikely in most major powers without a full-scale global war. See, that's the key. Without a full-scale global war. So I assume that in America's stead, when this war kicks off, that's when they just going to reinstate the draft. Okay, because if they were smart, they would just get around to doing it now. Getting the numbers up, getting the people trained up, and preparing them. But see, they're so proud because it tells us in the book of Isaiah that I should sit as a lady forever and I should not see poverty, roughly paraphrasing it. I should never be a widow, you know, basically the pride of Babylon. But if they were smart, they would be getting their reserves in order right now, you know. But it's all through the spirit, because going back to that vision that Jake had, he stated that the men that they had in the military, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. So I assume when this war comes, because the scriptures say, behold, the third will come quickly, Esau just going to be grabbing up niggas and sending them over there without any type of basic training. Just to say, look, you put a body in a suit. It's going to be so unprepared, man. It's going to be bad. But it says, however, reinstatement remains unlikely in most major powers without a full-scale global war due to political hurdles, public resistance, and the success of all volunteer forces. Okay? Now, they say a 5 to 10% likely in the next 2 years, but yeah, they haven't dropped anybody since 1973. Vietnam, which that was a very unpopular war. That 17,000 people were killed on the draft. Okay, but let's see what it says here. Legal and political barriers. Reinstatement requires congressional approval to amend the Military Service Act plus presidential action. But Trump, he's undermining all those particular approval acts. He's going above the Supreme Court. He's undermining the Congress. He don't give a shit. So I don't see that being a problem. Misinformation. Tying Project 25, a conservative policy blueprint to mandatory service, has been debunked. Blase, blase. World circumstances factor. The U.S. is indirectly involved in Ukraine via aid in the Middle East. All right. It says supporting Israel, Iran, post-Iran strikes, but these don't demand mass troop surges yet. Okay, yet. It says a large-scale war, direct NATO-Russia clash, which that's basically that Russia's threatened NATO, they're threatening Europe. They like, look, man, we're gonna send in troops and we're gonna destabilize you if you continue to provide aid to the Ukraine, because we know that NATO is funding the Ukraine. But it says direct NATO-Russia clash could shift this, but experts see no such trigger in 2025. All right, it says if it happened, males 18 and 25 must already register with Selective Service, over 15-minute compliant in 2023, and a lottery will prioritize 20-year-old first. Women aren't required but could be included new via laws. And women going to, okay, they going to go all the way up into the age of fucking 50, 60. That 18 to 25 ain't going to make a difference. Hell, they may start at the age of 12 if they could get away with it, you know. But nonetheless, we're definitely in a time of war, okay? So let's go to the book of Joel 3, and I'm going to start at verses 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, and prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Okay, so this is a declaration of war. Okay, war drums are beating right now because the scriptures say there's a time of war and there's a time of peace. We're in a time now that Yahweh Shai is getting ready to bring this shit full circle. And this is getting ready to end, brothers, man. Okay, we ain't got that much longer left. We're getting ready to see the return of Yahweh Shai, man, and be one with our Lord finally if we're chosen. Just a little while longer, man. But it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And this is where they at. This is why you have small nations like Iran, North Korea, you know, Afghanistan, you know, Libya, these smaller militaries, you know, they're popping big shit to these Western powers because, you know, hey, it's scripture, it's prophecy. All right.
We've actually heard that NATO is telling the United States, we need you in the middle of this. Now, we've heard the United States say they will defend every inch of NATO territory. However, you've heard Donald Trump drop ultimatums on NATO saying, if we're going to go this route, you got to stop buying oil from Russia. Put you in a very bad spot. So the United States saying they would defend every inch, but there are some requirements. Now, take a look. We're hearing Trump is considering supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles. J.D. Vance has said this coming out 7 hours ago. And also, take a look, top U.S. military brass are going to be holding a secretive meeting. If you didn't hear, this is the first of its kind. An urgent U.S. military meeting is taking place with Hegseth as Trump is ramping up the criticism on Russia. We still do not know the purpose of this meeting. Now,
it's basically a prep talk, you know, before you go to war. Basically, it's a prep talk. He's basically getting them prepared. Like, you got to be in shape. Something big is getting ready to happen. They know they finna go to war. They finna collapse this dollar. They going to war behind that. If nothing else, they gonna go to war behind that shit. But yeah, this is it's getting real. It's finna get real sticky for you citizens of Babylon, man. And guess what? You women, you going to war too. All right, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, you Edomite women, you so-called bad boss bitches. Hey, y'all getting ready to get that young draft letter too sooner than later. And all that independent shit you talk, hey, you're gonna have to put it on the front line now. All right. But anyway, reading here, and it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. Assemble yourselves, come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. And let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there would I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So this is where we're at, man. Okay? Let me go here to the book of Revelation real quick. Revelation 9. And I'm going to start at verses 12. And it says, one woe was past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter, and those are the world wars. Okay, the second woe has already passed. Now we're getting ready to enter the third woe, which woe means destruction. Okay, it says, and the 6th angel sounded, and I heard the voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which was before the Most High, saying to the 6th angel, which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels, which are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay a third part of men. That's you Edomites, third part of mankind. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. And I heard the number of them, okay? Those are the missiles. You see? So this is going to be a nuclear war, and it's going to make a complete end to the West, man, or to America, Babylon the Great.
We're going to find out when we do. I'll let you know here on the channel. But if you think it's because we're going to war, drop a war in the comments. If you think we're not going to war and we're going to have peace, put peace. But right now, it looks like as of today, September the 29th, 2025, things are ramping up. And we can see our adversary, Russia, is enacted a military draft in preparation for more war. So it looks like that is the direction we're likely going to be going. So if you put war in the comments, chances are that's the route it looks like we're going to be going. Now, we will see. I will keep you up to date every step of the way so you know exactly what is going on. But let's get you caught up on the latest so that way you can see it for yourself. And I am seeing war pouring into the comments. Now, do me a favor before we dive in. I'm going to cite all the sources. Every article I'm going to be referencing is hyperlinked in the description. I cite the sources. I'm going to put it on the screen, read right from it so you can see the dates, where they're coming from, and know and rest assured that this is the latest information. Now, if you appreciate that, do me a favor, take a quick second, hit that thumbs up like button, and you're going to be able to see the news media outlets from which these are coming. Some people say they don't see them. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can see it for yourself. Sometimes they even come out faster than some of the other news media outlets. You don't see it reported because they're focused on other things. But I'm going to get you the latest as we're hearing that in Russia, this is making news, 135,000 are going to be drafted for the military. Also, to stay up to date, it's totally free if you want to keep up to speed on everything going on. Earlier today, I did an update on Social Security as we're going to be seeing some big changes, global conflict, legislation, all the things happening right now. There was a mass shooting at a church that took place. Trump came out and said, if you're a Christian, be on alert. Things like this, the breaking news, to stay up to date. It's totally free. Hit that subscribe button. I'll let you know everything that's going on, cite the sources, get you caught up on the latest. So again, if you appreciate that, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's go ahead and get you caught up as to what is going on so you can see it for yourself. So take a look at this article coming out today, September the 29th, 2025. Putin signs military draft for 135 citizens amid the ongoing mobilization plan. Now, this article reads that Russian leader Vladimir Putin has signed a decree for the 2025 autumn military draft running from October 1st to December 31st, according to a decree posted on the official Russian government legal portal on September 29th today. The call-up will target 135,000 Russian citizens ages 18 to 30, and if I remember correctly, I believe that's going to be the same age requirement for the United States if a draft was enacted. Vice Admiral Vladimir Simlinsky, deputy head of Russia's main organization and mobilization directorate, said draftees will serve only within Russia and will not participate in Russian invasion of Ukraine. Previously, it was reported that Russia is considering a major overhaul of its conscription system that would allow for continuous draft procedures year-round, as the country grapples with unprecedented military losses in Ukraine, according to the proposed legislative changes introduced by the head of the Russian parliament.
If you're interested in crypto, then pop quiz, okay? What's the easiest, safest, and most
committee? And so there we have it. Just very short article. I thought there was even more to it, but that's it. 1 minute read that they're saying that this is happening right now. You can see. Let's take a look at this one over here. Russia plans to draft 135,000 people during an autumn conscription. And of course, like I said, a lot of people concerned, is this the route that the United States is going to be going? Let me know your thoughts. If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. We're going to be taking a look at an article here in just a second covering exactly that. Now, this article says Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree on September 29th, today, launching the country's autumn military draft, which will call up for 135,000 men between the ages of 18 and 30. Russia holds conscription drives twice a year, spring and fall. The autumn's...
Yep. So there you go. Okay. So... let's do this real quick and come back to that. Let's do Ezekiel 23 and 23. Yeah, Russia not playing, man. This shit gonna get real. So this is the book of, Ezekiel 23 and 23. It says, the Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Peko, Shoa, and Koah, and all the Assyrians with them, all of them desirable young men, captors and rulers, said young men, great lords and renown, all of them riding upon horses. Okay. It says, and they should come against thee with chariot and wagons and wheel and the assembly of people. which was set at array against thee, buckler and shield and helmet round about, and I will set judgments before them, and they should judge thee according to their judgments, man. All right, so yeah, young military age men in Russia, you better believe that they gonna be prepared, okay? Because they don't fuck around over there. It ain't like you shooting up McDonald eating fucking reality show watching Americans, man. You know, and then you sit back and drink beer, eat hot dogs, and watch sports 24/7. The Russians, they actually train in 3-4 fetus, and look at them spatting ass troops, man. They'll wipe the floor with the fucking Navy SEALs easily, and I'm willing to put my best dollar on that. But it says here, Revelation 8, and I'm going to start at 1. It says, and when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of a half an hour, and that's a literal half an hour. It says, and I saw the 7 angels which stood before the Most High, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne, all right? And this is what we're praying for. Okay, we're asking Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai to finally bring an end to this motherfucking place. All right, this shit is played out, you know. And it says, and smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before the Most High out of the angel's hands. All right, and I think, is it Gabriel or is it Raphael? I don't know which one holds the prayer of the saints. I think it's either Gabriel or Raphael, or because I know when you go into the book of Tobit, because Rapah goes into hill, okay, Gabriel goes into like warrior. Gabriel Allah means warrior of power. Rapaya Allah means he's a healer of God. I'm trying to think which one takes the prayer of the saints back to the Heavenly Father and they're dispersed. I want to say it's Rapaya Allah, if I'm not mistaken. You can read about that in Tobit. But then you got Michael, you got Uriel, you got Gabriel, and then you got I think Raphael, Rapaya Allah, which means the healer of the Most High. Now there's 7 archangels, but only 4 mentioned by name. With Michael being the chief archangel, that's the head chief of under the Lord's armies, or he's the head of the Lord's armies, man. He's the top angel. Okay, but anyway, it says here, and the angel took the censer and filled up the fire of altar and cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. And the first angel sounded, and there followed hell and fire mingled with blood, and that was cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass were burnt up. And the second angel sounded, as it was a great mountain burning with fire, was cast into the sea, and third part of the sea became blood, man. Okay, and that's going into the destruction when those missiles hit. You see? And it says here, and the third part of the creatures died, which were in the sea, and had life and died, and the third part of the ships was destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And that same name of the star is called wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter, right? Because when those missiles hit, you got what they call radiation poisoning. Okay, radiation. The waters are going to be contaminated in parts of the world. But here, all the rivers is going to dry up because the missiles are going to destroy this place, man. Like the Lord said, he was going to drop all the pools and the rivers. This said, was the Most High angry at the said, was the Most High angry at the trees? Was he angry at the rivers? You know? But anyway, going back to the book of Joel. Matter of fact, let's go down here. Yep, let's keep reading. And it says, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so that the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound. Okay, and woe is destruction. Okay, so going back to the book of Joel 3. 13, it says, put ye in a sickle, for the harvest is ripe, and come and get you down, for the press is full, for the fats overflow, and their wickedness is great. right? The wickedness. And this is why we're getting ready to enter to no point of return. Okay, it's over with for Babylon. This shit is through. Okay, we're getting ready to see what the prophets have foreseen over 2,000-3,000 years ago. Okay, like the Lord said it. He said that there have been some here that waited to see the promises, but they wasn't here to see the blessings, man. Which was basically us in the ancient world, but we're seeing it today. It says here, multitudes of multitudes in the valley of decision. It says, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. And it says, and the sun and the moon should be darkened, and the stars should withdraw their shining. And the Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel, okay? Because when that chariot pops up, there's going to be literally, this place is going to shake. Once Yahushua comes back, ain't going to be no doubt about it. Like, okay, this is Yahushua. This ain't no Project Blue Beam and none of that craziness. This is who we ignorantly call Christ, which his name is Yahushua in the Hebrew. He's back, and he's coming back with vengeance in his heart, because the scriptures say that the day of vengeance, okay, is with him, all right? And he should stain all his raiment, and he's going to trample his feet in the blood of the wicked, man. All right? So anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor that is due to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Lord's will, we're edified. You know what? Slakia. Nope, I got another precept. Slakia. Let me play a little bit more of this. That's the spirit. There's more to it. Slakia. But let's play a couple more minutes of the video. Then I will set up the next precepts. Then we'll sincerely end it. So here we go. Slakia.
Draft will run from October 1st to December 31st. In comparison, last year's fall draft brought 133,000 conscripts. Earlier this year, Russia reportedly recruited 160,000 during the spring draft cycle. Conscripts will serve only within Russian territory and will not be deployed to war in Ukraine. Vladimir Simlinsky, head of the Russian General Staff's Mobilization Department, said on September 22nd. Yet, independent reports suggest that despite official assurance, many conscripts face pressure to sign contracts with Russia's defense military that can lead to deployment in Ukraine. So they're claiming this is just support for the military. You're not going to go to war. It's okay. We just need to make sure that we fill up our military because it's being depleted because of the Ukraine war. They're saying, well, independent reporters are saying Russia's government that is saying this is false, that they are stocking up for war. Now, the announcement comes shortly after Russia's parliament passed a bill in its first reading on September 24th to introduce year-round conscription, replacing the current seasonal system. If adopted, the new law would take effect in early 2026. So just drafting as we go all the time. You might get called for war at any moment. Putin's partial mobilization in 2022, the first since World War II. And we're going to be taking a look at some video footage here. You're going to be hearing them saying what is happening right now. And they're talking about in regards to Russia, the world, the United States involvement. We have not seen anything like this since World War II. It triggered protests across Russia and a mass exodus of more than 261,000 men. 261,000 people have exited out of Russia to try to get out of what is going on right now with the conflict and the war. Now,
so just imagine what people are going to do in Babylon. Okay, I mean, even going back to 2022, and when fucking they went to war with Ukraine, the women was like, "Fuck that, we're getting ready to get back. We want to be stay-at-home wives again. We don't want to be independent." You had a lot of men that was bugging out. You know, a lot of passport bros are like, "Fuck it, I'm staying overseas." They can come grab your ass up overseas too. But they say over 200,000 men basically made a mass exodus, which when they go into the word exodus, in their term of exodus, it just means to escape. You know, goes into in the wilderness. But in their concept of the exodus, it just means like a mass people just leaving left and right. You know,
if there was a draft in the United States, would we see the same thing happen here? Would we see men ages 18 to 30 exit out of the U.S. to avoid?
They're going to be hiding, man, because they not equipped. They not ready. Okay, these people ain't ready to fight a global war. You heard the division that Jake had last week. They're not ready. They're not in shape. That's what this dude, what's this clown's name? Hegseth, this is the shit he was talking about. He was basically giving them the prep speech. He said, look, if you ain't in shape, you got to get the hell up out of here. Because he was saying how the military men are fat, they lazy, they out of shape. fucking the Air Force, they got it the best, the Air Force and the Navy. You know, which in the military, you had to be some type of a warrior. But now, if you pass the aptitude test and what you call that VMAT, what's the fucking name of that test? But you pass that test, you pretty much good to go. As long as you know how to operate drone strikes in particular, you know, machinery and weaponry, then, you know, you'll be cool. But now, hey, this is going to be a battle with boots on the ground. Going to start off boots on the ground. Of course, it's going to be air defense, air strikes. It's going to be on the water strikes, you know, from the Navy. All branches of military be involved in this. They're going to come from inland helicopters, okay, boots on the ground. But boots on the ground, that's the fighting force. You got to be in some type of shape. You got to have combat IQ to be eligible to be boots on the ground, because that's up and close and personal, man. You know, you got to be able to run with all that equipment on, man. You got to be able to run for fucking miles with that heavy ass uniform on. And then, not to mention, you know, the weapons they're armed with, man. You know, the M16s and shit like that, bro. They got to be in shape. And you people, you can't even run down the street without gassing out. Let alone you fight a global war. All right? So, yeah, this is what I meant to get. This is the book of Jeremiah 51. And I'm going to start at I'm going to start at 56, and I'm going to go back up to the 30, because this is a point I want to make. It says, because the spoilers come upon her, even upon Babylon, and her mighty men are taken. Okay, every one of their bows is broken. For the Lord Yahweh it says, for the Lord power of recompense shall surely requite. Okay, so it already tells you that the American military, NATO, EU, you know, the world's military, your men, mainly Babylon, the American military, you ain't gonna be a factor in this war too much. Okay, you're gonna be getting slaughtered left and right. All right. Jeremiah 51:27 says, set ye up a standard in the land and blow the trumpet among the nations. Prepare the nations against her. This is why Russia's preparing a draft. It says, call together against her the kingdom of Arat. Okay, you can look up what Arat means. All right. It says, Mini and Ashkenaz, and appoint the captain. It says, and Ashkenaz was a son of Japhet, by the way. But it says, and appoint the captain against her, and cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars, man. Okay, when you go into Ararat, Turkey, you know, the Ottoman Turks, or Mount Ararat, which I believe they found what they claimed that they found the what you call the Ark, and somewhere in that particular region. There's different sources on that, you know, but remembering. But then, you know, you got the Turkey, man, which is a primary member of NATO, but yet they're looking to side, you know, alliances with Russia and Iran. So it makes sense. But it says, cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars, and prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes. There you go. And the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. Okay. It says, and the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be formed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. Okay, so this is the time we're getting ready to enter into. They're coming up against America, and really the West, but predominantly America is the offense, because not even NATO and the EU is really rocking with Babylon to the full extent. But it says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight, and they have remained in their holds, and their might have fallen. It says failed. It says they become as women, and they have burned her dwelling places, and her bars are broken, her defense systems. And one post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. All right. So Lord's will, you know, this man Trump. Okay, Lord's will, you know, it beat him to bring in the war of Armageddon, because, like I said, man, Trump, he shoots first, asks questions later. But anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Lord's will, you will edify. Until the next lesson. Shalom.
Or the draft. If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. What do you think would happen if this was enacted in the United States? Now, although the Kremlin declared mobilization completed, it has never been officially ended by a decree. Since then, Moscow has sought to avoid another large-scale mobilization by ramping up contract recruitment, offering financial incentives to volunteers. So right now, there you have it. We are hearing Russia has enacted that draft. An additional 135 men need to go to war. They're claiming that it is not for Ukraine, not for war, just making sure the military is full, but independent reports coming out from those in Russia saying that is not the case, that they are preparing for war. And right now, we've actually heard from Russia that war is the only path forward. They said there is no chance of peace. And with the way that they said that Trump has done a U-turn on its position with the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia is saying that they are going full speed ahead into more conflict right now. Any potential ceasefire agreement, any deal, any peace, it is off the table. And as we've seen, Article 4 has been initiated by Poland and Estonia, which is all NATO nations discussing, do we need to take the next step? Article 5, defend ourselves in war against an opposing threatening power, which is Russia. That is currently where we're at right now. And a lot of people concerned, as you saw, that we're going the direction of World War III. Now, we're going to be talking about a U.S. military draft here in just a second, but let's take a look at some video footage on the latest coming out. This says Trump's envoy reveals the biggest concern amid the Ukraine war, that what if mistakes happen? And in here, you're going to hear them say, this is a global conflict. This is not confined to Russia and Ukraine. This is going to spark a world war if we are not careful. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage so you can see it for yourself.
We have great respect for the fight that Ukraine is putting up. It's pretty amazing, actually. And I'm not going to ever call anybody a paper tiger, but Russia spent millions and millions of dollars in bombs, missiles, ammunition, and lives, their lives, and they've gained virtually no land. I think it's time to stop.
It's time to save our country, and I'm counting on you to do it. I'm Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm going to be the next governor.
Russia overnight launching a massive drone strike on Kyiv. This after Ukrainian President Zelensky announced a $90 billion arms agreement with the U.S. as President Trump appeared to reverse his position on Ukraine's chances of turning the tide in this 3.5-year war. For the latest, let's bring in Special Envoy for Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg. General, thank you for joining us this morning. I want to go first to the president's post on Truth Social. It really stunned the world. He said, with time, patience, the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started, very much an option. Why not? Ukraine would be able to take back their country in its original form, and who knows, maybe even go further than that. That last line, maybe go further than that. Are we talking about long-range strikes into Russia soon?
Yeah, first of all, Jackie, thanks for having me, and congratulations on the new program. It's really great. Look, one predicate before we start. You know, this war actually started in 2014 under President Obama when the Russians went into Crimea. And then 2022 when they went in under President Biden. This is not President Trump's war in the sense he has inherited this war, and he's done everything he possibly can do to bring this war to a conclusion, from talking to two major principals to talking to allies, and he's done a wonderful job doing it, but he's really trying really hard. His comments this week that came after UN General Assembly were, and you said kind of changed the landscape. He's always been very, very positive about trying to get to a conclusion. But I think what's happened is the constant information he gets, which is really good, from the intelligence agencies, from Secretary of State, all the way down the line, kind of shows him that Russia is not winning this war. If they were winning this war, they'd be in Kyiv, they'd be in Odessa, they'd be over the Dnieper River. That we added 2 new NATO allies. One of them, Finland had doubled the size of the border the Russians have to protect. We added Sweden, which is a technologically advanced nation, especially when it comes to armament. So this is where I think they have an opportunity to challenge Russia much more aggressively if they pick to do it, and they get the weapon systems to do so. They've never asked for U.S. troops. They don't want U.S. troops on the ground. But what they do want is the armament and the ability and the authority to use it. And if they do that, I think it's going to be pretty well received.
Do they have the authority to use it?
Well, it's mixed. Sometimes they get some of the authority, sometimes they don't, and I think very carefully everybody should follow what the president says. He's the commander-in-chief by the Constitution, and everybody falls in line. When the president says go left, you go left. If he says you go right, you go right. That's the president. The last I checked, none of us got electoral college votes. He did. So when the president says to do something, we just need to do that and complete the action. Look, I think everybody needs to understand the seriousness of this war. This war is the largest war in Europe since the end of World War II. It's between the two geographically largest countries in Europe, with Ukraine and Russia. The casualties are well over 1 million. We're talking hundreds of thousands. They're using the most advanced systems in the world, bombers, missiles, the drone technology. It's really advanced, and sometimes I think we don't realize how serious this is. And my biggest concern is that a mistake can happen, and that causes for a larger escalation, be it the attacks by the drones into Poland or the aircraft that are overflying Estonia, whatever it's going to be. You have to be very, very careful about it. And when I was up at the UN this last week, I talked to
You don't have to be a VIP to get more than just savings with Geico. Every customer gets 24/7 fast-friendly claim support.
Could I get a picture?
Yeah, it's not like you run into animal celebrities every day.
Stop! It's just a pug! Dog!
Get more than just savings. Get more with Geico.
A rare all-hands meeting of the nation's top military officials is just getting underway this morning. Hundreds of generals and admirals stationed around the world were hastily summoned by the Defense Secretary to the Marine base in Quantico, Virginia. And we're now learning more about the focus of that gathering. NBC's Peter Alexander there for us at the very latest. Peter, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. Even as we speak, President Trump is still addressing those senior military leaders here. This was a remarkable speech that took place this morning. Earlier, hearing from Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, who said, among other things, that he would be ridding the military of wokeness, saying he would put an end to decades of decay. This wasn't just unorthodox. It was also quite mysterious coming in for its size and its scope, and for the Pentagon that has secure channels to communicate to leaders around the world. Bringing them all here together at once provided security risks and also the potential to cost millions of dollars.
This morning for the world's most powerful military, a meeting with no modern precedent. Admirals and generals expected to have traveled in from as far away as Japan and the Middle East, abruptly summoned by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth last week. Hegseth this morning saying he gathered the group to explain his new vision.
Welcome to the War Department, because the era of the Department of Defense is over.
And railing against what he called woke garbage in the military.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. We are done with that.
Followed by President Trump.
My message to you is very simple. I am with you. I support you. And as president, I have your backs 100%. You'll never see me even waver a little bit.
Top Democrats objecting to the meeting before it began, writing Hegseth in part, "This abrupt time and resource-intensive meeting is absurd." Since taking over the Pentagon, Hegseth has focused on reshaping military culture by installing what he calls a warrior ethos. Still, today's gathering comes after months of high-profile firings of senior officers with limited explanation, including the Joint Chiefs Chairman, the president's rebranding of the Defense Department as the Department of War, and his deployment of National Guard and active duty troops to cities governed by Democrats, all of it raising the stakes for today's unusual session.
Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you.
Hegseth today telling the leaders they could either join him or leave.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today